Hi guys, it's Sam from Puppy Power. I'm going to show you how to do your own Snuffle Mat. So I started out buying a utility mat which came in 6 squares. I cut them individually. If you wanted to, you could do 2 together and make a giant one, but I just did them in singles. So the next step we did was we cut strips of felt. I did about 1 to 1.5 inch by about 12 inches, but you could do them all different lengths. In fact, the more different lengths you do, the more interesting the mat ends up being for your dog. So the first step is flip your mat upside down. And I just did a row across, 1 piece of felt in between 2 of the holes, and then you flip it back over and you tie a knot. So far, I haven't found a huge difference between tying a single knot or a double. So I think you can kind of play around to see what's going to work best for you. And I'm sure if you ended up doing all single knots and you found that it was loosening on you, it'd be easy enough to go back and do double knots again. But I find using it on the rubber mat, it's not really sliding around a whole lot anyways, so I gave it a pretty good pull and it really didn't go too far. Especially when you've got a whole bunch of them together, I don't think it's really going to matter too much. That said, I could be wrong. So I did a row of each color basically, and then after I finished a row of each color, then I did diagonals going across. And the other thing that I kind of played around with was, instead of just doing a single diagonal, doing an X across. And again, I think you can kind of play around with that to see which is going to work best for you. But I just want to real quickly go ahead and do 1 row across to show you what it looks like. Oops, I forgot to flip that before I did it. And I'm sure there's faster ways to do this than what I'm doing. You can kind of figure out your own little system of doing it. I had my husband helping me cut strips, which definitely helped out. I've got a shoulder injury, so I've got to be careful doing a lot of that kind of stuff repetitively. But I'm sure if you wanted to, you could cut all your own strips first and then put them together later. I don't know how many strips it took me to make the full mat that I did. I'm going to guess probably about 100, but it just depends on how many across you do, because you could definitely, like with mine, I did every other. You could do another one in between each one. It just depends how thick you want things to be. I found with how I did it, it was thick enough, and I found that once I crisscrossed, which I'm going to show you what that looks like in between the rows, that I found it a little bit too thick to crisscross. So the next one I'm going to try, I'm just going to do diagonal. But real quickly, I'm going to use a different color here. Black's probably not the best example. We'll do a bright pink for an example. I'm going to show you what the diagonals look like. So if you can see that, I'm just going from 1 hole diagonal down to the next one. And I'll put another one in there so that you can see what that looks like. There we go. I'll flip it back over. And I'm just going to tie it on the diagonal. Okay, so that's what that ends up looking like. And I'll crisscross it so you can see what that looks like as well. I'll use the pink again. And I actually tie it over top of the other one, so you end up with something that looks like that. And then the other thing that I did as well is I went horizontally across, not just straight down. And again, I think you can kind of play around with how much you want to do of each direction to see how thick you want it. I'm just going to give you a quick demo of what that looks like when I do horizontal and vertical rows. I'll do black for those ones. I may not show that good on the video, but I'm going to show you what the final product looks like in a second. So, 2 vertical ones. And I'm sure you could also kind of play around with if you cross over some of the existing pieces as well. I didn't cross many of mine except for on the diagonals, but if you wanted to, you could. And if you're really fancy and crafty, you could probably make a whole design out of it. I kind of just played around with certain colors for certain rows, but depending on kind of what you feel like doing and what your final result, what you're looking for, you can switch it up. And then I'll do one more this way just to show you if I fill each direction how thick that looks in the corner there. Okay, so that's what it looks like, having just filled in one direction of each way. Okay, so I just want to show you the back of the finished product. So on this row we did through every single hole, and then on the sides I just want every other. And if I flip it over and show you the difference, this is with every hole filled, how much that looks like, and then with every other, that's what it looks like. So I don't notice a huge difference, so you could probably get away with doing every other, but it's your project. You can make it however you want to. Good luck, have fun. And then for the final product, once I fill in everything using different colors, this is what I ended up with. So you can kind of see how if I stick food in there, it's really going to fall in between all these little lengths of fabric. And again, if you wanted to switch up lengths of fabric, you could have some longer ones, some shorter ones. I think the more that your dog has to kind of sniffle around to get to the kibble in the fabric, the more fun they're going to have. And it's supposed to be a really relaxing exercise because the dog is actually sniffing, which is a calming activity for many dogs. One of the things that I read with these is the more complicated you make it, the more the dog has to think, the less it's going to be useful for relaxation, and the more useful it's going to be to keep the dog's mind occupied. So you can kind of play around with what you think is going to work best for your dog. And obviously, since you're making it, you can make it tailored to your individual dog. So that's it. The next video, I'm going to show you my dog's actually playing with this. And I'm a little nervous about how it's going to go with Oakley, but stay tuned.